Christine is gone. You cannot save her.
Hold on, Ancient One. Cannot be saved? So you think it is absolutely 100% impossible for Christine to be saved in any way?
Challenge accepted!
What's up, everyone? So I was rewatching some of my favorite What If episodes the other day. And the very first episode I wanted to start with was episode 4. What if Doctor Strange lost his heart instead of his hands? Now, despite how much I absolutely love that episode, there's one thing about it that leaves me wondering. It doesn't quite feel right to me. The Ancient One keeps warning Doctor Strange that his continual tampering is going to have dire consequences. She warns him that Christine cannot be saved. At the end, we are led to believe that Sorcerer Supreme constantly tampering with the fabric of time leads to the collapse of his universe. That he went too far in his quest to save his one true love. The thing is, this show is built entirely around pondering the question, what if? And for me, in this episode, the question is, what if Doctor Strange did not go too far? What if he's not the cause of his universe collapsing at all? Today I'm going to explain to you why I don't think Sorcerer Supreme went too far in his quest to save Christine. But quite the contrary. I believe he didn't quite go far enough.
Follow me and ponder the question, what if?
To unravel the mystery of how to save Christine, the first thing we need to do is simple. We simply need to understand the inner workings of time travel.
I have no idea when we're talking about time travel.
To be a little more specific, we need to know the differences between time travel using the Time Stone, as we see Doctor Strange do here, and time travel through the quantum realm, as we see in Avengers Endgame, because they're not quite the same thing. When the Avengers travel through the quantum realm to relive past events, they're not traveling to their own past. They're traveling to prior events along another timeline. This allows them to make changes and adjustments as they need to without causing irreparable damage to their own timelines.
Changing the past doesn't change the future.
The Time Stone, however, works a little different. The Time Stone allows the user to control the flow of time. We see this through individuals reversing time, pausing time, creating time loops. The Time Stone does not send their user to a different timeline as quantum travel does, but rather rewinds the timeline that they are already on. That is why the Ancient One believes that Christine's death is an absolute point. Strange is changing time around himself. He's altering the course of the timeline that he is already on. It's an act that would cause a paradox, as Christine surviving that night would give Strange no reason to pursue the mystic arts at all.
Teach me.
But how does an absolute point work exactly? Well, the show would lead us to believe that time itself will alter to make sure that this exact event is going to happen no matter what. Whether that's adding a house explosion that wouldn't have happened otherwise, or giving her a heart attack, or having a random passerby decide he wants to step into a restaurant and shoot the first person he sees, happening to be Christine. But did that explosion happen when Christine wasn't there? With the number of times that Strange went back to save her, you'd think that he'd be looking for safe places for her to stay. At least after the first few attempts. So that would mean that time itself is altering specifically to target Christine. Except that's not how we've seen time work up until this point. Up until this point, time has always been a constant, passive, predictable series of movement of items. When we see someone rewind time using the Time Stone, we see items literally moving backwards, going back to where they were before this moment in time. But if time itself is not actively trying to kill Christine, who is? Can we think of anyone else who would have a stake in making sure that time continued along a certain laid out path?
Welcome to the Time Variance Authority.
We never see time itself actively changing of its own accord. But what the Ancient One describes here as an absolute point, it sounds a lot like the type of critical event that the TVA would be looking to enforce. They have their sacred timeline, a set course of actions that they expect, they require to take place according to their plan. If they need Stephen Strange to become the Sorcerer Supreme, they're going to do whatever is necessary to ensure that this happens. Now, the problem that the TVA faces here is that this is not your run-of-the-mill branch timeline that they can simply prune. Strange using the Time Stone to rewind time, so that when he arrives in the past to save Christine, he is the only Doctor Strange there, being placed directly back in his own timeline. Now, whether this could create a branch or not is a little ambiguous, but the results are the same either way. If it does not create a branch, due to him never actually leaving his own timeline, then there'd be no branch for the TVA to prune, just the one timeline that they instead need to find a way to correct by any means necessary.
For all time.
If it does create a branch, we're still left with the same dilemma, as Strange would have diverted both of these possible branches. The one he came from would no longer have a Doctor Strange in it. And since that took place before the coming of Thanos, we know Doctor Strange is still important to the timeline. The one he arrived in would have Christine Palmer survive, once again, making that branch no longer usable. So once again, correction here is needed, not pruning, as neither branch can be pruned. And while Strange is one man trying to find a safe place for Christine, the TVA has a small army of agents at the ready. And with maintaining the sacred timeline their life's work, they're going to ensure that the end stays exactly as they wish.
Past, present, future.
What Strange does next, however, changes the game. When he comes to realize that he cannot beat this absolute point, he reacts in the exact same way he did the first time. He goes searching for answers. This time, however, he finds a means of increasing his power exponentially. And after spending centuries bulking up, he returns to try once more. But this time, he does not try and save Christine. This time, he instead lets her die. But then he uses his immense new power to bring her back. Now, this might seem like a victory for Stephen Strange, but the TVA has one more trick up their sleeves. Seeing that they can no longer keep the timeline in order by killing Christine, they're forced to think outside the box. They need Strange to lose his greatest love, and then go searching for answers, and to become the Sorcerer Supreme. But they don't actually need Christine to be his greatest love. With the timeline out of control, they go back even further. They go back to a prior point and set the events in motion to break up Christine Palmer and Stephen Strange prior to the events of the car crash. So when the time comes, his greatest love is no longer Christine Palmer, but instead his greatest love is the arrogant prestige he gets through the workings of his own two hands.
You can't do it freehand.
I can and I will.
Therein lies the key. The whole reason Christine's death was considered to be unavoidable was because Stephen Strange had to lose his greatest treasure. So the solution would have been to go back even further than that night, to make sure that a young Stephen Strange has another reason to pursue the mystic arts with the same reckless abandon. Going back before the accident and breaking up with Christine would have taken away that support, so that the loss of his hands in the accident would have still been the push he needed. With Christine by his side, he always would have had the support he needed without magic. So if he really wanted to save her life, the solution is to let her go.
Maybe it's time to consider stopping.
So what do you think? Do you think the TVA was behind the absolute point all along? Do you think Strange Supreme could have gone back further to save Christine by changing events before that fateful night? Can you think of any other ways that he could have saved her? Let me know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you want to see more of the Uncanny J-Men's content. And until next time, thanks for watching.